Good evening, everyone. My name is Jacqueline, and I'm an educator who is transitioning into the hospitality field. And in 2014, I made my first trip to Liberia, West Africa. Before going, I looked for a local grassroots national nonprofit organization um, that was accepting international volunteers. I'm going to get back to the importance of those words, grassroots and local, in a little bit. But I ended up going back 3 more times, with my last trip lasting almost 6 months. The pull was some amazing community organizers and children, and the fact that Liberia is a very beautiful place. I'm excited to be here and to share with you an abridged story and ask you and your network to join the Real Dads Network and others who have been working really hard to support our initiative that we have happening in Liberia right now. Working hard to empower and strengthen the African diaspora, which is that's big work. So I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful to the Real Dads Network for and their leadership team, who has helped us already do this for 1 month. And now we're here presenting our initiative to you and hoping that in some way you'll be able to help us too. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen. So the street library program, I'm sure you've heard of street libraries. It's something that I've seen here in New York City many times. And the idea is that we're making literacy more accessible, books and education more accessible to children, and something that they're comfortable being around, an environment that they're comfortable being around that kind of meets them where they are. So we have our program located in Painesville, which is a suburb, I would say, I guess you could say, of the capital city of Monrovia. And in our pictures here, you can see some of our kids involved in activities that take place. So I want to start by giving a little bit of information about Liberia, because it's really important for context sake. Liberia is a country in West Africa about the size of Pennsylvania, with a population of about 5 million people. More than 40% of the population is under 16 years old. And I need to stress that, because that shows, once again, the urgency of what I'm coming to you with today. So that's a really, really young country. It has a very complicated and, unfortunately, very traumatic history. As mentioned, Liberia is beautiful. The beaches are gorgeous and the sunsets are to die for. So much so that when I was there, I made it a daily practice not miss a sunset if I could avoid doing so. The food, find it and eat it. That's really all I can say about it. Rubber is also one of Liberia's main resources and exports, or what's extracted stripped from the country, if we want to be a little bit more honest about the situation. Firestone Tire Company plays a big part in Liberia's story, and this might be something that you want to research on your own time. Of course, exploitation is involved. Fishing and agriculture are also part of the fabric of Liberian life. There are 16 tribes who make up Liberia's native people, and the urban areas, namely the capital of Monrovia, has quite an old Lebanese community, a sizable amount of American and European expats, due to a large volume of aid and relief organizations, which you'll understand why as we keep talking, and a growing Chinese population, as is the case throughout most of Africa now. Now, here's where the story gets really, really interesting. In 1822, something very unique happened in Liberia. The American Colonization Society, whose role it was to get as many freed Black Americans out of America and out of America. That's the main point. They they sent over the first group of Black Americans to the shore of Liberia. And many of the Black Americans who later became known as Americo-Liberians died because of, well, that's kind of how colonization ends up going. And yes, this is a story of colonization, of elitism, of colorism, of imperialism, of theft, of subjugation. And yes, the perpetrators were Black. And yes, they were there because they had just had some of the same things, or all of those same things happen to them. And so, of course, over time, as history shows us, people get tired. So that tension led to a coup in 1980, and two horrific civil wars followed. And the impact of those is still glaringly clear in the lives of Liberians every day, this very day. As you can see on the slide, the large death toll and the amount of people that are still trying to recover from being displaced. So Liberia now, things like that don't happen and leave you unscathed. That's not possible. So according to the World Food Program report in 2018, 64% of the country lives under the poverty line. And I was actually asking a few people if they thought that number might be a bit off, because I wouldn't be surprised if it's even higher, especially now. Unemployment is widespread. Um, and Ebola, which I'm sure all of you have heard of happening in Liberia and throughout West Africa, and COVID had drastic impacts on the economy there and health there and everything there in a negative way. Also, it's important to note that Liberia, because of the war, has a very large, and their connection to America politically, has a very large population here in the States. And so the diaspora here provides a lot of the economic growth in Liberia. They're often sending money back. But when we're hurting here as we are now, we need more people who can join in and support people back in Liberia, where getting money seems nearly impossible on a day-to-day basis. So in essence, I'm here to add you to the group of Liberians around America and friends of Liberians around America who are constantly trying to raise money to put in the hands of the right people in Liberia to try to move initiatives and programs forward, like the one we have here today. Also on this screen, we have a chart that kind of displays just how the literacy rate is quite low in Liberia, especially for a female population. So you can take a minute and glance at that if you haven't already. All right, moving on. So there's hope. Founded in the early 2000s as a response of local youth seeing a need to prevent rather than respond to social issues, we live in a country where we see the same thing, right? Poverty leads to a plethora of social issues. Trauma leads to a plethora of social issues. So Liberia is no exception. And after the war, we have a group of young people who are seeing these issues happening. And while Liberia is being flooded with big named NGOs and a large group of international organizations doing things that support, however well-intentioned, it often doesn't meet the needs because, well, for the people, by the people, right? So it was important that these youth after the war come together on their own, have these meetings and figure out, what does our country need? What does our community right here next door need to heal, to do better, to feel better, to not re-traumatize ourselves over and over again? So, as the quote says on the screen, Youth Crime Watch of Liberia is dedicated to fighting illiteracy and promoting reconciliation, reconstruction, peace, development, and a better, healthier lifestyles for Liberia through crime prevention, youth empowerment, and employment. So that is pretty much the mission statement of Youth Crime Watch. And this is why it is so important, in my opinion, to bypass these big name NGOs paying their directors hefty salaries and pour into local grassroots organizations. who have the insight and the abilities to do the work. Self-empowerment and self-building with the hands-off support of those with access to resources is real power. And I want to read that again because we're coming together, Real Dads Network, Youth Crime Watch of Liberia, two grassroots organizations, two groups of people who are part of the African diaspora trying to support. And this is something that's important. Self-empowerment and self-building with the hands-off support or allyship of those with access to resources is real power. So we recognize our privilege, we recognize our power, and how can we help our brothers and sisters across the sea who are struggling and doing their best to try to make a difference in their this organization was founded by and is still run by youth who experienced and prevailed through the horror of war and still work through the trauma of it all, determined to break cycles and create something new for the younger generation. So this is some real powerful stuff. And as you can see, this is why time and time again, I was drawn back to Liberia. Seeing this it changed me as a person as well. So the street library story. After my second visit, the director called me of Youth Crime Watch called me with an idea to address the large amount of children without access to books, education, and most importantly, no safe space, no space to feel stimulated intellectually, to be carefree and just have fun and be babies, and just be in a positive space. So I returned to Liberia and we started working, and we started as a place where community members could come and check out books as you would in any library, and where kids could come for story time. We quickly learned that we didn't have the exact resources we need to sustain this setup. And so then we moved on to another model. I say all this to say that this has been for the past 4 or so years, constantly going back to the drawing board and trying to find solutions and find a way to make a program that's actually beneficial to the community of Painesville. So I am so happy to announce that during my last and longest visit to Liberia, right before COVID, we took all this information, all this trial and error, and we spent a few weeks really creating systems that work. Because thankfully, even through COVID, obviously taking a break because of it, they're still working. And now we have a program that is running and has a ridiculous amount of community involvement and engagement. What I mean is, in that picture, you can actually see the gate where our children come in each day for programming. And we will have a line on our days, which I'll tell you more about in a while, where we allow anyone first come, first serve for 75 people. We have to turn people away. That is the level of involvement. That is how much the need is there. We serve about 100 kids, if not more, every week. And on Mondays and Fridays, we have open sessions where the first 75 kids to arrive participate in educational and pure fun games, watch a movie, and when funds allow us to, they will also have a little snack. We're trying to change that. We need your help. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays, children are assigned one specific session to attend in smaller groups of 35 children where they can engage in story time, literacy projects, arts and crafts, games, and more. So we have a lot already, and it's important to notice that because we don't want to come and ask for support when we have nothing to give. But so much work is being done with the bare minimum that when I think about what we can do with more resources, it just blows my mind. So right now, we're thriving in regards to the fact that we have community that is behind us. We have parents, aunties, uncles who are so thankful that we're there. We have kids who are there begging to come even when it's not their day to be there and they know it's not their day to be there. And we have highly committed local staff whose resiliency and ability to figure it out, once again, inspires me every day, even with all my other projects that I'm working on. We also have such a great location. As you can see, we have safety, of that nice tall gate. We have a beautiful space outside that's covered from the rain. And we've worked really hard to create that and raise money to get that far. And we have a very unique and needed community offering. There's no other space that I know of and that I've heard of any of my coworkers, their colleagues talk about, where people can come and receive, not people, children can come and receive this service and this love and this care and this fun and this learning. And we have spectacular children who deserve the world. So that's the main thing. We do this for them and we're trying to fight for them. Inviting you to join them. So what do we need? Number one, our kids are hungry. As I talked about the poverty rate, we have kids who are not eating, period. We have kids who are coming in clothing that is tattered. We have kids who are not able to focus because they're so hungry. And there's no feeding program like there is in the US. There's no welfare, there's no food stamps, there's no assistance. So they're really at the mercy of whoever is able to help. And that's why we raise money here and there, ask people to send over what they can, save their Starbucks money, save your Grubhub, your DoorDash money, and sacrifice a night a week so that someone can eat who doesn't really have an option of ordering DoorDash. So we need funds for a feeding program, and I'm going to go into details, break down those numbers for you in a bit. And then we also need books, educational games, toys, and I apologize, it says education, coloring books and stickers. And I will be sending out a link where you can purchase these. We've created a wish list of the items that we need so that they can be sent over in barrels. It's important to note that these are the only things we need because everything else we're trying to get local. Another way to support the community. All right, so please, please, please support. We're closing up here. On this screen, you will see our budget, and this was just a budget that we created for 6 months, but then I broke it down just so that you can get a better idea of exactly what we need. As I said before, thank you, thank you, thank you to the leadership team at Real Dads Network for coming through and for getting us our first month of July. The kids are ecstatic. I don't think you understand what it means to get a nice warm bowl of rice and beans for these kids. This is like a big deal. So what you'll see here, we've removed the third line, cooking and other utensils, because that's a one-time cost and we've already purchased that thanks to Real Dads Network. But what we do need is for those middle days where we have a smaller group of kids and we're doing more one-on-one work, we want those days to be able to feed them like a full hearty meal, for which many of them that will be the only meal they have today. And I don't say that to exaggerate, that's the truth. And then on Mondays and Fridays, having snacks, sandwiches for the children, because then we have a large group. And then we have a stipend for the cook. So what I am asking you to do today, and as they would say in Liberia, I hold your foot, I beg you, to find it in your heart and to see if there's anyone else you know who's looking for something meaningful to do with the little bit of resources that they may have. I know times are rough, but we are looking for 25 people to commit to only $27 per month to feed 110. And I want us to really look at those numbers because I just ordered food and I paid about that just for myself to eat lunch. And so when we think about what we could do with our resources, and we think about being global citizens and being Black people who are helping other Black people around the world, this is a beautiful opportunity. And as I said, we need books and other things that cannot be bought in Liberia. And I'll be sending out the link of where you can purchase those. If you have any questions, I actually forgot to leave my email here, but I will be sending out an email with the email list that I received from the moderator to make sure that you have all the information that you may need. If you have any questions, that you can reach out to me, and any ideas of any other ways that we can gather support. Because this is such a great mission, and it's something that I don't want to let go of. I want to make sure that I'm fighting as much as I can find support. So thank you again, Real Dads Network, for supporting us so far and for giving us this platform to ask for more support. And thank you for everything you do for parenting not only your kids, but babies all over the world. It's really, really appreciated. Thank you.